Welcome to Becoming, hosted by the Colorado State Employee Assistance Program. On this podcast, we interview state employees about how they adopted different mindsets that changed how they lived their lives. We hope these conversations inspire you to reflect on your own mindsets, which could help improve your overall mental health and well-being. So, Aaron, thank you so much for being here with CSEAP today. Can you tell us a little bit about, your role, what you do, and maybe your day-to-day?
So I work for the Department of Corrections, the Fremont facility. I'm the food service lieutenant there. I usually work in the morning, so we get breakfast ready for the offenders. We feed about 1,500 offenders. So just getting that meal ready to prepared and getting our lunch ready to go, stuff like that. And then in the midst of, we have a work crew with about 60 offenders with 6 sergeants watching them and training them and making sure they're following all the different health code regulations.
In addition to, your work with making sure that the food is prepped in that area, is there anything else that you do for the facility?
For about 12 years, I was active with what's called the Critical Incident Response Team, and it's basically due to the nature of our jobs. We have staff assaults, we have offender deaths, staff deaths, and we are a peer support group that will go into the facility when invited by the warden to talk to the staff and give them we're not counselors, but give them kind of a basic groundwork of things to do to help them cope or help them process what just happened. And we found one of the key aspects of our team is that since we are part of support, and our members are all aspects of the job. We have people that work admin, we have people that work correctional industries, and we have people that, that are sergeants, and we're able to talk to these people. It's not like we don't bring them into a room and talk to them. We're never going to get anyone in DOC to talk that way. But we do the job with them. We know the stressors they have, and we get a lot more effective communication that way. That doing the job with them and kind of give them little, I call it seeds of knowledge in their brains of like, hey, this traumatic thing happened. You're going to relive in your brain. You're going to have smells. You're not going crazy. It's going to be okay.
Wow. So you do this on the job after an incident?
Yes. One of the things is we are very guarded, and we're not going to do it in front of other people or in front of offenders and like that. Of course, we'll take you to the side and talk, but we want to show them that we know what they do and their stressors.
Yeah, I kind of picture it like a movie scene. Something happens, and then they're like, hey, it's kind of like, let's just do the thing together, and in between our tasks, responsibilities, maybe there's room to chit chat and
exactly
to kind of just reflect together in a more informal way.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and that kind of opens the doors in a different way.
Yes, it opens a lot more.
Yeah. Before you decided to get onto the critical incident response team, were there things that you were noticing that kind of helped you decide, like, yeah, I think this is necessary?
Oh, definitely. So when I first started the academy, and you hear when they talk a little bit about it, you hear this 50% divorce rate with law enforcement and all these stats, scary stats about, how the job will change you. And it does a little bit with all that there's. And I remember probably 14 years ago when Ricard was murdered in Ark Valley. I did not know her. I didn't know nothing about the situation. But then my father-in-law came in, or ex-father-in-law came in and talked to me about it. And he left. And then for some reason, as soon as he got done talking to me about it, just the details of it, I got in a petty fight with my wife. And at that point, I was like, I don't want to lose relationship. I lost it, but I don't want to lose the relationship. I didn't want to change it. And also, with PTSD being everything, I wanted to help. My brother was in the Army too, so I just kind of want to learn tactics for myself and for family and friends that I could help teach them.
Can you maybe share some of those things that you found helpful, either for yourself or sharing with your staff?
Yeah, definitely. First thing is you need to find something outside of work that's for you to enjoy, whether it be fishing. We're called fishing, hunting, hiking, or even if it's, you know, being with your family. What happens a lot with us within law enforcement and DOC is that we work a lot of doubles and we get tired and we start losing. That stuff starts going by the wayside. I just want to be at home and not do anything. You have to force yourself to do the things you like. The other thing is find someone to talk to, and it could be just someone positive to talk to. A lot of times we will talk about our job, and then it just becomes of almost like who's got a worse system, and it doesn't really work. You just kind of relive the trauma and everything like that. So find someone positive to talk to. Our insurance companies is both of them will pay for a therapist. Therapists are great. Just because you don't feel like you're depressed or anything like that doesn't mean that being able to talk to someone unbiased that you can kind of unload on helps so much.
Why do you think that is? Like just the act of speaking about what you're feeling and going through from your perspective, why do you think that's helpful?
I think it helps you as you're talking, you kind of start reframing the way you see it or way you explain it, and you might see it a different way instead of just automatically just pushing it down. And also talking about it, you might find out feelings you had that you didn't realize you had. Like I said, a lot of times when we just push that down, we push all those feelings down, push that stress, that anger or whatever, and all of a sudden you're yelling at your kid for no reason or yelling at your wife for no reason. And just talking really helps it.
If you could sum up the kind of traits that you really wanted to focus on and share with people today, what would those traits be?
It'd be resilience and bravery. Realize that, you're not always going to be okay and everything's not always going to be flowers. You're going to have hard times, but it's bouncing back from those hard times. It's learning different coping skills and having the bravery to talk to people, talk to your family, talk to counselors, talk to people that can help you in a positive way get through this job, which can be very stressful and very negative at times.
Resilience and bravery. How would you explain these traits, the importance of these traits to maybe say a child or a teenager?
It's very because I have a 12-year-old right now, and we're going over through the pre-teen stuff and the teen stuff. With the kids, it's leading by example, but also being open with them. It's okay for for you to say, "Hey, Dad's having a hard time right now," or "Dad's having this real overstimulated right now," or I have two little girls too, playing with the little girls, or it's okay to cry. It's okay to be in touch with your feelings. It's okay to say, even though I'm feeling this, I'm still working as best I can through it.
You're doing the work as an employee, as a partner, as a father. How has the work you're doing in the mental health realm affected y'all positively?
I'm a lot less angry. It's as funny as it says, is I'm a lot less angry. I don't feel like a hairpin trigger. Me and my wife can have arguments now that doesn't affect, slamming doors or someone leaving or doing anything like that. We understand that frustration at times, and we're able to kind of circle back and to, understand each other on why the other one was mad or what was going on that time. Now I can kind of recognize stuff before it happens, especially, dealing with my kids. Like, okay, especially my 12-year-old, where it's like, okay, I want to ask him to clean his room. I know he's going to resist. I can now try to use this or try instead of just immediately yelling and doing the or else or, that you kind of get strategies even before it starts. Or I recognize my wife, and if she's having a hard time, instead of, being super defensive, I'm like, okay, she's having a hard time. What's the best tactics to use to get both of us through it?
Yeah.
Before therapy, before certain all that, I was so worried about getting my point across that I felt like I was being heard. But now I feel like it, even though I don't have to voice it like all the time or scream, or I really try to reframe our arguments instead of the past stuff. Like, well, you did this once, well, you did that once. We're more like, okay, this is how I feel right now. What's funny is that the more I hear someone get to understand them, and it'll have a conversation, not just a screaming match, I feel more heard and more protected on myself.
And I could imagine like working in an environment like DOC and, what you're surrounded by. There's often this sort of like air of authority. I'm sure that amplifies this feeling of just aggressiveness, or the other end of the spectrum is just total silence.
When you're at work, you need compliance right away. Like, usually when you're talk to an offender, you need compliance right away. Like, I need you to do this right now because of the safety of yourself or that offender, or safety of this facility. You don't need that compliance for kids right away. Like, I get clean your room is very important. You're trying to teach them that stuff, but you don't need them to do it right away right now. Not instant compliance. You don't need in life right away. Like, that's where the one thing you got to learn to kind of turn on, turn off. And then, not do anything is at that burnout phase. It's just like you're burned out and you don't feel anything. And then that's where the resilience really kind of works, I'm not going to tell you the job, it changes you. It changes the way you look at things, you look at people, understand people. But if you just kind of let the change happen and don't really fight it, it's going to change you for the worse. Like, you take all that stuff, and some of that stuff is very good, but you also kind of have to weed the bad stuff out and then realize, like I said, really what's important in your life and how you reconnect with yourself, with your family.
Well, thank you, Aaron, so much for being here, sharing parts of your story and giving us insight.
Okay, thank you. This is awesome.